Just bring it home.
The origins of the word shiftless.
No.
Shiftless, I believe, means someone of ill repute. So if you had a lady without her shift, I'll let you take it from there. So she would get up. She may have slept in this basic garment. And then the next piece, let me see if I get everything here in order. Next piece would be her drawers. And now some of you start thinking Victoria's Secret's a little bit, or maybe even a little reference to Hollywood. This is a pair of drawers. Again, white cotton, durable, a little different than what you traditionally see for a lady's undergarments for her lower half these days. And there's much debate amongst the historians whether it was a tuck-in or wear out. But in this case, for convenience, we will have it go tuck in. The chemise would tuck in. And in our Civil War events, it really is an item of much debate. Do the ladies tuck their chemises in, or do they wear the drawers underneath? I'll let you decide. The drawers were split as a matter of convenience for the ladies to take care of their body's natural duties. The chemise would generally be about knee length. The drawers would go between knee and ankle. Next will be the defining piece of the Victorian era and the thing that creates the shape that every lady in the century wanted to achieve. And that was that enviable hourglass shape. Oh, but Hannah, what do we do first before we put on our corset? Put the shoes on. And why do we put our shoes on? Put the corset on, you can't reach your feet. So we have white cotton hosiery, generally a fine cotton knit or a silk knit, would go up over the knee. It would be held on with some sort of a garter. There was some rubber by the Civil War era, so there could have been some elastic to the garter, or it could have just, in this case, is a hand-knitted wool garter that just tightened up and snug and held up your stockings. So your stockings would go on. Then you would wear your boots. Probably in Maine, this would be the most common footwear that a lady would have. It would be a leather boot that would lace above her ankle. It would give her foot support, keep it warm, keep it dry, keep the mud off the white stockings, especially in the springtime in Maine. And now we can define that shape.
It's torturous. Yeah.
Here it is. Heavy cotton duck fabric. Not a lot of ornamentation. Didn't need to be pretty. It needed to be serviceable. It needed to hold your body together to fit into your clothes. The front of the corset has what's called a steel butt. And it's two steel strips with basically rivets and hooks on them. And Hannah will help me get this around. And see how tightly she's been tied. There is boning all the way around the corset. It would either be steel or perhaps even wood. But there's very little flexibility once it's on there. And how many of you have seen Gone with the Wind? I have my corset on, so I can't put my foot in her hip and pull. But the corset that would then be laced to the needs of the outfit that she's wearing. If she's working around the house, she doesn't need a 20-inch waist. She needs something to provide support, create the hourglass look that she needs for the time period in her it doesn't need to be uncomfortable because she does need to function around the home. So it would be tied to a comfortable tightness. A little later on, you're going to see some ball gowns and a few more dressier gowns. And in those situations, ladies, yes, they wanted small waists. Some things haven't changed in the fashion industry. So they would again tighten up as tight as they could to help define that waist and create an hourglass look. And part of the hourglass look they were looking for was to create a look of smoothness. Playtex had their own motto when they first came out with ladies' underpinnings, which I believe went something along the lines of lift and separate. Well, from a language point of view, in this era, the top part of a woman's body was called a bosom. And if you notice, the word bosom is singular. One. The attempt was to make a smooth, singular look to the woman's body. It would help create the illusion of a narrow waist, nothing to suggest what was underneath it, because nobody wanted to know what was underneath it, or were supposed to know what was underneath it. So it created a smooth, shelf-like appearance. I just lost my train of thought. So that kind of defined the shape that the ladies were looking for, the narrow waist. And the way they would help achieve the narrow waist, as we go through some more articles of clothing, was to create some optical illusions. But before we can put the dresses on to do that, we have a few more things. Now, I mentioned that the boning in the corset was made out of steel. It wasn't stainless steel, so what happens to steel when it gets moist? So to protect the investment of the fabric in your outer garments, over the corset, you put on a corset cover to protect your dress from the corset. And it would just be, again, another cotton outfit. Sometimes a little more decorative. Some might have some lacing along the top because it may actually show over the top of the lower gown. And it would have all kinds of buttons. And you don't need to do them all buttons. She's getting close. That's why tea wasn't until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because you'd never get there by 10.
So you had help getting dressed, right?
A finer lady would probably have help getting dressed. A woman working in Maine probably wouldn't have anyone attending her, and you would get by. And depending on your financial means, you may not have as many layers underneath, but the basic foundation for a woman are the pieces we're showing here. If you're doing a work about the house, you've got an old dress, you may not have a corset cover. You may have a corset that doesn't have as many bones, easier to get in and out of. And for the most part, you make the corset fit your needs. Everyone, when we go to events, says, oh, a corset, how can you stand it? It's as comfortable as you need it to be. And it all comes with the adjustables on the back. However tight you lace it, or however many hooks over you go, or whether you sew on your buttons with elastic, or whatever tricks we ourselves use now to make our clothes fit better, you use then to make it comfortable for you to wear and do the work that you need to do. So, Jesse's getting close in here. As she will be wearing a gown, she will need a petticoat. And pre-Rev War, again, everyone was trying to make themselves look like they had a smaller waist. Well, if you think about an hourglass, one of the reasons that the middle looks so small is because it's wide on the bottom. And the lady said, well, if I put on a couple more petticoats, it makes the bottom look wider, makes my waist look a little bit smaller. Let's put on some more petticoats. So century, women would be piling on the petticoats. They may have 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 petticoats. They would be different weights of fabric. They might have cording at the bottom to create fullness. Whatever they could do to create that illusion of size at the bottom to make your waist look smaller. This particular petticoat would function as an under petticoat. Basically, something that would be worn underneath her hoop to give her protection. If she should be out and about, she wouldn't want anyone to see her limbs. So to prevent the sway of the skirt that might show any ankles or boots, she would have a petticoat underneath her hoop, and that's what this will function as. Frequently, the under petticoats would be made out of flannel or wool to provide warmth. This particular one is a decorated one with eyelet, and again, it's white cotton for easy laundering. Now here's the fun part, ladies, the part that we all want to try on and do our bargain dressing. And that's the hoop. Also called a crinoline or a caged crinoline. The original ones were actually bones of steel or whalebone, and they were held together with straps. It almost looked like a net. It would be circles of steel hooked together with webbing. In this particular case, we have a modern reproduction version. And this is far and away much lighter than 8 or 10 petticoats. And it achieves the same look that the petticoats did with considerably less expense and considerably less weight. Anytime you left the house, you would try to achieve the look that the hoop provides. So basically, you would probably, if you were going out, strolling around town, going shopping, certainly going to any social function, you would be hooped in some size or other. The size of the hoop somewhat depended on the how high the society event was. For a ball, you would make your hoop as big as you could make it and have fabric to cover it with your dress. Working around the house or perhaps shopping, it might be a little smaller in size. It was also sized somewhat to the proportion of your height. So you can see why the hoops went on first now. Now this particular hoop is made with plastic boning, but as I mentioned in the same thing we saw with the corset, if it was steel boning and it was raining and she was out walking, the steel would rust. So we better put a petticoat over the hoop so we don't get any rust on our expensive dress. So now we have an over petticoat. The other purpose of the over petticoat was to prevent the bones of the steel to show through on your dress. You didn't want to see little bumps and ridges down the beautiful fabric of your gown. So the over petticoat protected your outer dress fabric and also provided a little bit of cushion to prevent those bones from showing through. Okay, JC, how you doing? Getting close. Now, I haven't peeked in my case, so I don't know what she's wearing for this event, but it looks like she has a nice satin bodice here, and a nice satin skirt. So she's going out for the afternoon, I suspect, today. She doesn't have to do any work